Welcome to Unlocking Family Engagement, Revolutionizing Your Parent Teacher Conference. Erica, I'll share. That's my favorite time of the year. How about yours?
It is. I love the fall because I'm in Arizona and the weather's finally turning kind of nice.
Love it. I love that the weather is nice. Yes, parent teacher conferences are my favorite and the fall. Thank you all for your yes and for bringing open minds into this space today. We know your time is valuable and we're grateful that not only you chose to stay logged in with difficulties, but you chose to spend the next 30 minutes with us. Unlike what you see on the screen, my name is Jasmine Cox, Customer Success Manager here at Thrively. I'm also joined by the amazing Erica Sparlin. And before we dig in, I really want us to take an additional second to pause for a quick pulse check to see how everyone is arriving in this space and feeling and functioning. Erica, how are you feeling and functioning today?
Good. We made it through the day. Our world here is lots and lots of chaotic, but we're making it.
We made it through the day. Thank you so much. So, I want to invite each and every one of you truly to give your permission to breathe and reflect. Again, how are you feeling right now? How are you functioning, not just professionally, but also personally? And I will share with you, Erica, with this slight hiccup with the technical difficulties. I'm going to model. I am feeling like a number three today. This year, we know that everyone is running off of fumes. Although the weather is changing, that means we are prepping for the holiday season. So it is clear that the calendar and the clock is moving way faster than we can even catch up with. But my mom used to always tell me, Jasmine, you cannot pour into others when you are running on empty. So this is a space to simply just be. No need to perform, no need to solve or do. So this is an opportunity to check in with yourself. So like I said, Erica, I am a solid number three. We finished what we started. How about you, Erica?
So we just got off fall break, so five would be nice, but it's back to I don't even know. We'll go with nine because we're just gonna roll with it.
Right. Thank you so much for sharing. So if you'll drop in the chat, how are you feeling? How are you functioning? Which one of these images best represent you today on this good Tuesday? If you'll drop that in the chat, that will be very well appreciated. How are you showing up in this space? Four. Yes. I feel it, Cheryl. Now, I really wish I had some beignets there to add to it, but I feel it. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else would like to share? How are we showing up in this space? How are we feeling? And how we're, there's a lot of number fours in there, Erica. I get it. I feel it. Yes, Belinda. Thank you for sharing. Thank you so much. Session. Again, my name is Jasmine Cox, Manager of Customer Success here at Thrively. I've served in education over the last 15 years. I started out as a kindergarten teacher, moved towards being a special education director, was also a charter school principal, and then landed here in this amazing role here at Thrively. I was born and raised in Eastern North Carolina, so we experienced all four seasons in a week, Erica. I love it here. I'm also a mom of two amazing children. My Marley is an 11-year-old and Lincoln is a 9-year-old, and they are phenomenal. And I'm also a Broadway enthusiast. So if you are excited about Wicked coming to the theaters, I am your girl. I will be seeing it with you. And I also love Marvel movies. But all in all, I enjoy and I'm so proud of the work that I have been a part of over these last 15 years and really being able to amplify student voices as I serve in this role here at Thrively. But moving past me, I want to be able to share and connect you with our amazing guest today, Miss Erica Sparling. Erica, would you like to share a little bit about yourself today?
Welcome to my crazy life. I am actually from near Pittsburgh, so I do bleed black and gold, and I got to figure out how to get home for the Thursday's night's football game, but that's okay. I've been in Tucson for what feels like ever now, probably close to 28. I finished college out here. So teaching for 27 years, 20th year at my school. We're a K-8 and the vast majority of our staff has been here for almost as long, if not a little longer than I've been here. So it's kind of
Wow.
awesome. I teach gifted social studies, so I have sixth, seventh, and eighth graders. And then this year, I also have the advanced eighth grade ELA class. I've done reading, writing, and Spanish, and I am a coach, mostly cross country and track. We used to have sixth grade soccer, and I can handle them. Seventh and eighth grade, not so much.
Love
Then, right, I'll admit it. My husband is a disabled Air Force veteran. He is in the process of getting a service dog now that our daughter is in college. But
Wow.
my crazy life, we live on a small ranch. I'm a dairy farmer by design, or my daughter's design as a 4-H'er. We have cats, dogs, horses, cows, and then ducks, chickens, guineas, any of it. My daughter is also a future Olympian for shooting sports and air pistol and 22 pistol, but she's a crazy kid who went to North Dakota from Arizona for college. Have fun.
Wow. I love that, Erica. I love how you describe it, and I love everything about it. But I love even more that you live on a ranch. I love that. I would love to learn a little bit more about that and how that shows up in your work and how you're sharing those experiences with your students. But I am just so excited to have you here and representing, and not only in this space, but as a Thrively ambassador as well. So thank you for joining in this space with me today. So today we're gonna really explore how a strengths-based approach can really transform learning. First, you'll be able to name and explain the principles and the benefits, focusing on what students do best rather than what they struggle with. That's important. That shift alone builds confidence, it builds engagement, and a stronger sense of self. From there, for our learning outcomes, you'll be able to learn practical strategies you can use immediately in your classroom and during conferences to make strengths visible and meaningful for your students. You'll also have access to a toolkit of resources. I love a good resource to support you as you put these strategies into place. So by the end of our session today, you'll be ready to develop a concrete plan so you can start applying strengths based practices in your classrooms and family conferences as soon as tomorrow. Tomorrow, as soon as tomorrow. I love that. So before we dive in, Erica, I love to really hear your thoughts here. What's one way you think highlighting a student's strengths could change how they show up in your classroom or even at home?
So we found finding their strengths really gives them that kind of, or using the Thrively strengths gives them that vocabulary to really shine and like look into what they're doing. And we use those strengths with, so we don't ever say weaknesses, but they're challenges. So when
Yeah.
we're goal setting, we're using their strengths to work on those challenges.
Yes, we love to see a challenge and take a challenge as an opportunity. So let's ground ourselves in the power of family engagement. When we talk about family engagement versus family involvement, it's important to highlight the difference. So, according to the Institute of Education Sciences, family involvement often means attending meetings or school events, but family engagement goes beyond attendance. That's important. Family engagement goes beyond attendance. It involves actively participating in learning, partnering with educators, and supporting students in meaningful ways. This kind of engagement alone has been shown to improve student outcomes, including higher grades, better behavior, and increased graduation rates. That's important. So, parent teacher conferences are a key opportunity for this. So, according to Cypress Village Elementary in 2025, conferences provide intentional, structured time to build authentic partnerships, discuss student progress, and establish shared understanding between educators and families. That is so important. So, how do we make all of this a reality here at Thrively? This is exactly why we're here. Thrively takes this research and turns into a practical framework that we call the 4 enabling conditions for learning. The 4 enabling conditions for learning. So here's just a quick peek and a quick glimpse at those 4 conditions. First, positive self-identity. Students discover their unique strengths with our strengths assessment, giving them a foundation for everything else. This is the catalyst. This is where we begin because we know every child, every student, every human has strengths. Second is the psychological well being, which is a quick research base well-being check-in, which gives us real insight into how students are feeling and how they are functioning. Erica, that goes back to where we started and grounded ourselves earlier. That quick check-in, how are we really feeling and functioning in these spaces? And from there, hope, not just as a feeling, not as an emotion, but a measurable, teachable trait. So our hope survey builds agency and pathways towards those goals. And lastly, building authentic connections. We know that deep relationships drive trust, they drive learning and growth. So these aren't just nice ideas. They're actionable, they're measurable, and they're all rooted in science. So today we will mainly focus on utilizing those strengths to work with families to increase student and family engagement. So, when we talk about building positive self identity in every learner, it's really about helping students see themselves as capable, valued, and ready to engage in learning. So, a strengths based approach makes that visible. Students recognize what they do best, which builds confidence and engagement. Family engagement plays a really big role here, Erica. Parent teacher conferences aren't just about reporting out on grades. This is a chance to partner with families, celebrate student strengths, and create just a shared vision and understanding of each child's unique abilities. It is so important. So when families leave with clear insights into their child's strengths, they can reinforce growth at home, and students feel that support both in school and at home. We're closing that loop there. So, as we explore strategies to help students build a positive self identity, I really want everyone to think about how you can involve families in the process. Erica, I would love your thoughts here. How might sharing a student's strengths with their family change the way that a student shows up in your classroom?
So I think it gives the kids and the families again that vocabulary piece, right? Like they go home and mom and dad ask, what did you do today? And well, I don't know, I didn't do anything. Well, no, you did a lot. So like I like to send the report home and let them have that conversation, and then the kids really do see themselves in that report, like, whoa, that's me. And then
Yeah.
the parents can see that as well, and that like kind of vocabulary that builds up instead of just all their normal glows or their struggles.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I love that I have school age children and love being able to. I'm thinking about my experiences and walking into my classrooms. Both of my children have services. One had an IEP, one had a 504, but being able to lead with what our students' strengths were, what were they good at, how did they shine in our classroom setting, I'm telling you, would have really, just increase what it looked like for me to show up for my students, made that connection with the school, and even want to be involved more because I felt like my children were a part of the classroom culture, that they felt like they were a part of something and they wanted to show up every single day. I would love to tap my colleague Jamie here. Jamie, can you share a little bit of, as well of how might sharing a student's strength with their family change the way that student shows up in your classroom, especially as you served as a GT lead in your previous school?
Oh, absolutely. Uh, it was something that like you have kids that are so used to being graded on like grades and behavior, and you have parent teacher conferences and they show up and they might not have grades and behavior that are spectacular, but by having the strengths assessment results, the certificate there, and talking to them, you can start off with a positive message, still get your point across with the other things, and then end with something positive. And this is just, I mean, outside the box, just positive information that's able to be shared with families. And then families can take that and actually feel good leaving that parent teacher conference.
Jamie, thank you so much for sharing that. And you've really connected us to what I wanted to share next around our strengths certificate, our strengths profile. Thrively gives us a way and a very powerful way to transform parent teacher conferences from, well, one way report for this is just your academic grades into a true partnership. So, by sharing student strengths profiles, family can see what their child does best and how they learn most effectively. So, this shared language of strengths, well being, and hope both helps our educators and families focus on growth, possibilities, and collaboration rather than just deficits. That is so important. So, during conferences, you can use Thrively to highlight a student's top five strengths, discuss actionable strategies, and even co-create a plan that continues at home. And I love that. How do my strengths show up at home? How do my students' strengths show up at home? And how we can have that affirming language. So this approach not only celebrates the student, but also empowers family to again reinforce learning and engagement outside of the classroom. Outside of the classroom. So, I would like to give you a quick overview of your role and how you can use Thrively in your classrooms and student led conferences. Erica, let's have some, conversations here. How did you first introduce Thrively to your students and families, and how did you get them engaged?
So we first started with the strengths assessment and then sending the report home just as an initial. And then I had my classes, they've done all of the other pieces of the strengths assessment too, the multiple intelligences, their where their smarts and all of them, so that we kind of put them all together when we're making their goals. So we use it in class for goal setting as well. And then we build up those strengths, but then we identify those challenges, like I said earlier. And then I use Thrively kind of throughout each quarter as lessons, and either weekly or every couple of weeks, the hope and well-being check-in too, so that the kids can track those pieces. Then when it comes to our conferences, we run our student-led conferences from our advisory classes like a home base. And we used to do
Mhm.
the ones where everybody, all the teachers sat around a circle with the kid and the parents, and it's just all, and really for only those kids who are in jeopardy of being retained, right? Which
Yeah.
doesn't happen anymore. So this changes all of that. And then the good kids were not getting conferences ever. So here, every kid gets a conference, and it is just the student, the advisory teacher, and then their parents or family, whoever comes. So
I
the
love
week, this is our third time going. So we started last year. So the week before, each class has a day where the kids work on their reflections.
yeah.
So my eighth graders at the bottom are kind of going through their social studies reflection, and then there's a day for their ELA reflection and their math, and then they do their advisory and their electives as well. So
Mm.
in those pieces, they have their current grade, their behavior, their citizenship, work habits, scores, but then also it's more about where they're at and kind of what their goal was, what they enjoyed in the class, what they can be working on in the class. So the grade is a piece of it, but not the focus of it. And the kids
Good.
get to talk out where they're at. So in my kids use Thrively in their social studies classes. So as part of their social studies reflection, we add in there, where are their strengths? What are they working on for
That's
those?
good. And I want to really lean into that. And these pictures are fantastic. But you talked about students leading out. And I think about my own 9-year-old who has a IEP for speech, did not speak until he was 4. Building that confidence to be able to share out it took us a while to really get there. It took us a while to really be able to help him find his voice. So my question for you is, what changes have you noticed in student confidence or engagement since using Thrively?
So with this, the kids, I think it just almost inherently comes with it when they have those pieces that they can say, here are my strengths, and we focus on that, not the deficit. Because even my kids who aren't doing as well academically go through their conference with their parents, and the focus isn't the grade, the focus is what they're doing and where can they get help, what can they do, and we end up with a better plan than just do your work.
I love that. I love that. And from there, you think about families who are used to your traditional approach of a parent teacher conference, right? I know I'm going to go in, I'm going to get those report cards. There's an opportunity for me to ask questions, but I'll be very transparent and talking from someone on the parent side, oftentimes walking in these spaces and already knowing we're going to talk about what my kid isn't doing well in. We're going to have these conversations already grounded in their deficits. So, looking at how you've switched up this approach a little bit, how have families responded to that? Has there been an increase in participation or conversations? I would really love to know how this has shifted the conversations for families.
I think it's huge. There's almost every time, and I have a new class this year because my class last year was eighth grader, which we try and with our advisory classes follow them. So it's the same, like that's just their connection. Um, but the every time I've only had one family or parent not be able to schedule, and we've done a Zoom or we've done an email. So they've all like everybody participates. It's not the no-shows of those other conferences that we used to have. And
Mm-hmm.
then they feel once they've had that interaction beyond just open house or whatnot, like
Yeah.
connections with the families and parents through email or like just their willingness to check in with the teachers increases as
I love that. And so from here, and I think Jamie, we could spend a lot of time here, especially from the parent lens and the parent role, right? But from here, what are your plans for expanding or building on the success? We are so excited to be able to share and amplify the success that you are having at Empathy. So what are your plans for expanding or building upon the success now that you've done this for a few years? Now we're in a rhythm. And do you have advice for any other educators who want to be able to lead conversation, focusing on what's strong with our students, not what's wrong, shifting our language to that asset based conversations and affirming statements around who our students are because we know that every child has a genius and they deserve to thrive. What are your plans for expanding this and sharing this out?
I think the expansion comes where the hope is that we get it for everyone
Hmm.
school-wide, not just my gifted classes, is a
Yeah.
big starting point, and we're getting closer to that goal through the whole district, I think. So there's that piece, and then expanding it so that the other teachers know. So one thing that I do is send an email, like not just all the certificate pieces, but those pieces where the kids can send out their strengths reports to their teachers as well, not just their parents and not just themselves and not just using it in my class, but seeing that across the board. And I really do think it helps the kids with their goal setting.
I
Like
love
it adding that into has been huge. So
I love that. And it goes back again to closing that loop, that true homeschool family partnership that is important because we are all invested in their academic achievement. So now that we're here and we've talked about what we're doing to prepare for conferences, now that we've gone through conferences, the post conference is the place that most people often forget about. So the post conference follow-ups, I believe, is where the magic really happens. It's one thing to share a student's strengths during a conference, but the real impact comes when that information is shared and celebrated afterward. The conversation doesn't just stop at that one time check in at our parents' conferences. So, for example, sending family newsletters. I love a good newsletter. I love to read. Sending a family newsletter that highlights student strengths keeps families engaged, just like you talked about, and reinforcing what was discussed in the conference. Celebrating growth in the classroom helps students see their progress and feel recognized again beyond that one moment. So you can also share insights with, again, like you share advisory or intervention teams. We can share their strengths assessment results with anyone that they're connected to, ensuring that all adults supporting our students are aligned and can continue to foster strengths based growth. That is so important to me. So, this is what we mean by that continuum of engagement, right? It's not just a single conversation, but an ongoing process from conference to collaboration that builds that trust and strengthens learning partnership, those connections that we talked about that is a part of our enabling conditions for learning. So, Erica, I'm curious, What's one strategy you've used after a conference to help families and students continue the conversation about strengths and about growth?
So I definitely like using newsletters. I send them more as like an email blast. Like I don't have the templates and design and time of making
Yeah.
it too fancy, but I send out like weekly, bi-weekly information on what we're doing and how we're using those strengths.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. So, as we're wrapping up and we're closing out on our time together, I want to be able to wrap us up and just really think about these takeaways. Let's focus on what you can do next. We talked about something you can do as early as tomorrow to make strengths based practices part of your daily routines and conferences. So, first, start by leading with strengths, not deficits. Highlight what students do well to set a positive tone in every conversation. Use your data to personalize connections, drawing from their strengths profile to make interactions meaningful and actionable. We know that data is just a starting point. Using that to draw those connections and personalize those connections. From there, extend engagement beyond conferences, sharing those newsletters, celebrating growth in the classroom, and keeping families not only involved but also informed throughout the year. And don't forget to explore Thrively's dashboard and resources before conferences so that you're fully prepared to have focused, strengths based conversations that empower both students and families. So, which one of these steps do you feel like, and from the audience, that is the easiest to implement right away, and which might require some extra planning? Jamie, I'd love for you to chime in here. You're thinking about, your time using Thrively in the classroom. Which one of those next steps felt like the easiest for you to implement if you were still teaching as soon as tomorrow?
I think starting by that leading with strengths, not deficits. Um,
Mhm.
it's such an important step, especially for some of those students who struggle, especially when it's time for parent teacher conferences and you don't have the grades and behavior. Being able to make that flip and start with strengths, lead with their strengths, um, and then really leaning into that to personalize that connection with data. So, but I would say leading with strengths is definitely the easiest step to implement right away because you can do that just immediately without doing anything else, just leaning into that strengths.
I love that. Thank you so much, Jamie. So, we're here, we're at the end of our time. And before we wrap up, first, Erica, thank you so much for being here with us. I always enjoy hearing your story and what you're doing in your classrooms. And, I love being just so connected. And I just want to share that your insights were so valuable, especially now, again, as we are prepping for that wrap up at the end of the first quarter. We're here, we can woosah a little bit, but we want to be able to lead and lean into second semester and second quarter with our strengths and being able to be on a positive high note. So thank you for sharing some of these strategies and things that you are already doing in your classroom. And I know for a fact that attendees were inspired by the real world examples that you shared, and as much as I was. And I really appreciate you showing us and sharing with us how Thrively can transform student led conferences. I really appreciate it. I love always having a panel in this space to be able to see these things in real time. It just makes it all come to life. So as we look ahead, our time is up together. I appreciate you all being able to log in with us. We want to welcome you to join us for the remaining quarter two webinar. So you'll see a QR code on your screen. And when you do, you'll be able to register for both of these sessions. Well, actually, three sessions here. So we have our upcoming November 12th webinar, which is Student Voice, Agency, and Action. We have our December 2nd webinar, which is Caring Connections, and December 16th, Educator Speak. Now, I am excited for all of these, but I just do want to share November 12th. I'm really looking forward to because it is a panel of amazing students who will be talking about the impact that Thrively has had on their lives. I'm just really, really excited about that one. And as always, we don't just want this to be a one time connection. We're going to just share some simple ways you can stay connected with us and with the Thrively community. So you can follow Thrively on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and Twitter. and visit us at thrively.com/classroom for resources, research, and implementation strategies. And remember, if you refer your principal to us, you'll be entered for a chance to win a free pilot account. We'll drop the link in the chat again so you can easily share it as you head back to your classrooms. We hope you'll keep asking that simple but powerful question: what's strong with you? But most importantly, we want to keep hearing your stories like Erica's stories. Those stories are important to us because we want to see these thrively classrooms. So tag us on social media, share how you're using these strategies, and let us celebrate alongside you as your students thrive. So thank you all again for spending time with us today. It has been an absolute privilege to learn and to share with each and every one of you. Until next time, let's continue to humanize learning together as we create strength based, joyful, and hopeful classrooms. Thank you all.